Welcome to the channel, guys. We are back again, and today I'm going to be talking about 5 hidden gem fragrances in my collection, so stay tuned for that. If you like top pick lists, fragrance reviews, clone comparisons, and first impressions, hit that subscribe button for more content. So I decided to talk about 5 fragrances in my collection that I think are hidden gems. Some of them from major brands, and some of them they get absolutely no talk. Some of them get a little bit of talk. And they're fragrances that, personally for me, for my taste, I think they are definitely underrated. You know, some of these, when I get to them, in my opinion, they're among the best from the brand that they have to offer, and yet nobody or very few people seem to talk about them. So I'm going to give them a little bit of attention today, maybe show you some fragrances that you should try and get a sample of, check them out, see if you like them. And so I'm going to start off with one that is probably, to me, I feel like it's the least hidden gem that I have here. It is one that from the brand definitely does not get talked about a lot. Gets overlooked by a lot of people, but I have heard people talking about this one, and I know that there are certainly fans of this fragrance along with me, and that's Parfums de Marly Galloway. Now, this one tends to get overshadowed by Sedley, Percival, Wajan, Carlisle. You know, Parfums de Marly does have a lot of good fragrances, and this is one of their fresh fragrances, which a lot of their fresh fragrances in general do tend to get overlooked. But this one is actually a fairly simple yet really enjoyable fragrance. I was very surprised, by the way, to find out this one has iris in it. Doesn't really give off that lipsticky vibe or anything like that. What this is, to me, is a very clean, I mean, the pearl color is really very suitable for this fragrance. It's a very clean, classy fragrance. It has a little bit of pepper in that to give it a bit of a spice, a bit of a kick. It has this really nice, juicy, citrusy opening. And it does give me the impression of like a clean water in the opening. And the other thing that's also really good about this one is this performs like you expect with Parfums de Marly, which means it's a very long-lasting fragrance that does project as well. And for a fresh fragrance like this one, I think that's very good. So that in and of itself is a good thing. But you know, this is a nice office fragrance. I think it's feels fairly safe, yet a little bit unique, and easy to wear. This is a nice shirt, like t-shirt kind of fragrance as well. This is a very chill fragrance, very easy to wear, and I do enjoy it. And I'm glad other people do enjoy it, but it's definitely one I think gets overlooked a lot from this house. And the next one, if you do watch my channel, it's not a hidden gem to you because I've talked about this one a lot. And I had to pick something from this house, and the house is Kerosene. They don't get that much talk. I know they recently released a new fragrance, Sweetly Known, which I did review, and definitely there were other people talking about that fragrance, but this is a house that to me does not get a lot of talk. And I think that as a whole house, I think they're underrated. Now, I mean, if somebody else has complained, there's been issues with spares. I will say, at least in my personal opinion, the spares are not that great. There's a big thing that he could improve on. And the actual fit of the cap does vary. Sometimes it's very snug. Sometimes it kind of comes off very easily. But other than that, you know, I think they do have a good quality control. I like the simple sort of rustic look of the plaque and the sort of stamped on name. So they do have a lot of great fragrances. I picked Blackmail because it is probably my favorite, although this alternates with Unknown Pleasures. But Blackmail is really good. And if you want to try an oud fragrance that is like for people that don't like oud, this is a good one because it doesn't really have a very pronounced oud. If anything, it has kind of an oud that resembles a little bit like the oud that's in Tom Ford Oud Wood, in that it's a very nice, fairly smooth, woody fragrance. And it doesn't come off at all skanky or animalic or challenging in that regard. The wood just smells different than something like a cedar wood or, you know, what have you. Now, this is a really beautiful, really smoky fragrance. So this has a ton of smokiness in it, and it's a smoky wood that has something about it gives me the impression that it's a little bit like a sparkling ember kind of thing, because there is something in there giving it that quality. And it also has a sweetness to it. So it has dried fruits in it that does give it a nice sweetness to offset that heavy smokiness and woodiness that it has. So it really has a nice balance between the two facets of the fragrance. or of sort of the dimension of fragrances. You have this sort of rich, smoky, woody vibe that's very niche with a nice, sweet, mass appealing touch as well. Performance of this one also exceptional. 10 plus hours for me. And that's on skin, so it probably lasts days on clothing. Very, very nicely done. I know it is one of the more liked fragrances from the house. But again, the whole brand in general, I think, is underrated. The next one. A brand that probably has a lot of hidden gems because there's so many fragrances. Very few people have probably smelled even half of them. But I'm sure there are people out there that are really big into this brand, love this brand. And this is one that I like because it reminds me a lot of He-Wood Rocky Mountain. And that's Mancera's Windwood. Now I will say that this is a very violet heavy fragrance, and if you don't like violet, and it's not the gasoline kind of violet or whatever, it's a very fresh, breezy kind of violet, you will not like this fragrance. So this one has nice green vibes to it, along with a very, very in-your-face, breezy violet. And it has a little bit of woody undertones to it, especially in the dry down. But what I like about this one is it kind of gives me that impression of, you know, just being in a breezy field or something like that, wind blowing through your hair. You can picture like green landscapes and the wind blowing tall grass or something like that. That is definitely the impression that I get here. Very breezy, very fresh, performs very well as well, especially for a fresher fragrance. And there are about 100 fragrances probably that don't get talked about a lot by Mancera, but this is one of them. I think it's a house that's worth exploring, but it is also one of those houses that you kind of need to sample because there's so many fragrances, and I don't know, some people are crazy about the brand, love everything from them, but other people, you know, there's just certain ones that they like, and for me, this is one of them. You know, I do also like Red Tobacco. That one gets talked about a lot. Everybody knows about Red Tobacco, but it's also, in my opinion, very, very good. And to my surprise, I think it's even quite pleasant in the opening, where a lot of people find it very harsh. Next one, big name brand. And this is one of the ones that doesn't get a lot of talk. Now, there are a lot of different fragrances, and I will say, certainly there are a few that don't get a lot of talk. One of the ones, so the brand is by Kilian. One of the ones that isn't in my collection that I think doesn't get a lot of talk that should, actually somebody just posted about it recently on Facebook, is Lemons in Zest. So this is an exclusive fragrance, and it is a bit fresher, but it is really, really awesome. Very nice, fresh, boozy fragrance, lemony, without smelling like pine cleaner or pine salt. So it's also a good one. But this one, the one I have in my collection, is Musk Oud. In general, I think the whole oud line, which I think has now been reduced to Musk Oud and Pearl Oud only, is a line that doesn't get a lot of talk from Kilian. But this is one that is just so luxurious. And it has this really nice, intoxicating, musky, boozy vibe in the opening with a little bit of rose in there too. Now, I don't find it too sharp or too strong, but there is enough to give like a rouge kind of undertone to this fragrance. I don't really get any oud in this. To me, it's primarily a musky fragrance. So the musk makes sense in the name, but the oud not so much. There is a little bit of that magic woodiness in the dry down, but it's not one that if you're really looking for a oud fragrance, I wouldn't really recommend this one. But if you like a nice, very luxurious, very opulent musk scent, then this is one I can definitely recommend to you. And it is worth trying out. Of course, it's a little bit more expensive. I think all of the Arabic collection or whatever, the Middle East collection, I think it used to be called, the ones that are still there, so Musk Oud and Pearl Oud, are quite expensive. But I did manage to get a tester of this from somebody, and I got it for a very good price. So I am happy that I was able to do that. And occasionally you can find them of Musk Oud as well, if you look around. But as always, make sure you're getting it from somebody reputable. And the last one. I saw this a review from Steven a long time ago, and I've heard a few people talk about this brand a couple of times, and I have tried out some other stuff from them, and I did like them, but this is the one that I have a bottle of, and I think it is a pretty reasonable price. I think you get about 90 USD. Now it is 30 milliliters, so it's a little bit less, but it is an excellent fragrance, and a hidden gem from that brand, Svensk Parfums, is Saddle. This is This is a leather fragrance that I find is done quite uniquely. So, you have these fragrances on a lot of spin-offs that were like Tuscan leather with this, sweet sort of raspberry offsetting this very leathery fragrance. And you have, of course, London by Whittian. And, of course, Ombre Leather, which is also still a sweet, but a little bit more subtle leather fragrance. A little bit more of a suede-like. But you have this, which is basically butterscotch and leather, and it's done really, really well. The butterscotch note to me is pretty unique, so I haven't seen a lot of fragrances that use butterscotch, even though I know a lot of people do like butterscotch. And of course it has a leather. And the leather is, to me, it's a very luxurious, high-quality leather, so it does seem like something handcrafted, and that's kind of the idea. Saddle, it's supposed to be something like a saddle leather, because if I recall, horses and horse riding and all that stuff is very sort of culturally relevant to Sweden, but it does certainly have those aspects. Now, the leather is not overbearing in this. I really was expecting when I bought or got a sample of this that it was going to be really in your face, because that's what some of the reviewers had said about it. But really it's not. It's definitely a lot more butterscotch in your face, very sweet. Performs very, very well. So even though it is 30 ml, it will last you a good long while. You don't have to go with like a ton of sprays with this one, and you can still check it out. Performs well, good sillage. So those are my top 5 underrated gems in my collection. I might do a video that's just underrated gems in general that are fragrances that I don't own. But for now, that's it, guys. I'm going to cut the video. Leave a comment down below. What are some underrated gems that you own? You think they're absolutely amazing, but you don't hear a lot of people talking about them. Leave a comment down below. Let me know. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.